The person who looks richest in the room may not be the wealthiest person in the room. A new luxury car, designer clothes, and an expensive house tell you what someone spends. They don't tell you what that person owns, what they owe, or whether they could stop working for 6 months without panicking. Real wealth is mostly invisible. It sits in bank accounts, retirement plans, investments, businesses, home equity, and something even harder to see: financial breathing room. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau describes financial well-being partly as being able to absorb a financial shock and having the freedom to make choices. So these 10 signs aren't a secret test for identifying millionaires. Someone can drive an old car because they're wealthy or because they simply can't afford another one. Think of these as clues to financial strength, not proof. Number 1. Their lifestyle seems surprisingly ordinary. One of the strongest clues is a gap between what someone could probably afford and what they actually choose to spend. Maybe they earn a strong income but live in a comfortable house instead of stretching for the biggest mortgage a lender would approve. Their car works, so they keep driving it. Their phone is a few years old. They don't replace perfectly good furniture because a new style became popular. This matters because recurring expenses quietly determine how much financial freedom you have. A person with a high income and enormous monthly obligations may have less flexibility than someone earning less but keeping much more of every paycheck. Living below your means isn't the same as being cheap. It's simply refusing to turn every raise into a permanent increase in expenses.
Number 2. They think about net worth more than salary.
A $200,000 salary sounds wealthy, but imagine someone earns that amount while carrying a huge mortgage, expensive car loans, credit card balances, and very little savings. Now imagine another person earns $100,000, owns a paid-off home, has substantial retirement savings, holds investments, and carries almost no consumer debt. Who is richer? Income measures money coming in. Net worth looks at what you own minus what you owe. The Federal Reserve's survey of consumer finances examines household wealth through exactly this broader balance sheet picture, including assets, debts, retirement holdings, housing, and other forms of ownership. Quietly wealthy people often understand this distinction. They don't need the biggest paycheck in their social circle. They need their assets to keep growing faster than their liabilities. Number 3. An ordinary emergency doesn't become a crisis. The furnace breaks, the car needs a major repair, a medical bill appears, work suddenly becomes uncertain. For many households, one unexpected expense can immediately create debt. Financially strong households have more room to absorb the hit. The Federal Reserve reported that in 2025, 55% of American adults said they had rainy day savings sufficient to cover 3 months of expenses. A wealthy person doesn't necessarily keep every dollar sitting in cash. In fact, much of their wealth may be invested, but they usually have enough accessible money, income, or other resources that a normal financial surprise doesn't force them to borrow at a terrible time. That calm can look boring from the outside. Financially, it's incredibly valuable. Number 4. Debt is a tool, not a lifestyle. Seeing someone with debt doesn't automatically mean they're struggling.
A financially sophisticated person might have a mortgage even while owning substantial investments. A business owner may borrow money for a productive reason. What matters is the type of debt, its cost, and whether the payments restrict their life. The bigger warning sign is expensive debt repeatedly being used to support ordinary consumption. A person can look successful while financing the appearance of success through credit cards, long car loans, and increasingly large monthly payments. Quiet wealth tends to work differently. Debt is considered carefully. Interest costs matter. Borrowing has a purpose, and paying interest simply to maintain an image isn't considered impressive. The goal isn't necessarily zero debt. The goal is having debt that doesn't control you. Number 5. Most of their wealth can't be seen. This is probably the biggest reason wealthy people can look completely ordinary. You can't see someone's 401k while they're standing in line at the grocery store. You can't see their brokerage account when they drive past you. You can't see ownership in a private business, home equity, bonds, or other investments by looking at someone's shoes. The Federal Reserve's household financial data shows that assets such as real estate and corporate equity are major components of American household wealth. Visible consumption works in the opposite direction. A $70,000 vehicle sitting in a driveway is easy to notice. The $70,000 someone quietly invested over several years isn't. That's why judging wealth by appearance is so unreliable. The strongest balance sheets often don't come with logos attached. Number 6. They don't upgrade just because they can.
Imagine Sarah can comfortably afford a new car. Her current car is 6 years old, paid off, reliable, and still does everything she needs. She keeps it. Someone watching from outside might assume she can't afford anything better. Sarah may simply understand that being able to buy something and having a good reason to buy it are two different questions. This mindset often appears with phones, houses, clothing, electronics, vacations, and other lifestyle purchases. The point isn't to keep everything forever or deny yourself enjoyable things. Wealth is supposed to improve your life. But financially secure people can be surprisingly selective. They often spend generously on things they genuinely value, while ignoring upgrades that mainly exist to signal success to somebody else. Number 7. Their investing looks almost boring. If someone quietly builds wealth for decades, their investment strategy may not provide many exciting dinner table stories. They may own diversified funds, retirement accounts, and other long-term investments. They may contribute regularly and largely ignore whatever investment is dominating social media this month. Diversification means spreading money among different investments rather than depending heavily on one bet. The SEC's Investor.gov explains diversification as a way of reducing the risk created by concentrating money too narrowly. It also warns that investment fees that appear small can have a meaningful effect over long periods. None of this guarantees profits. Investments can lose value. But wealth building usually benefits more from consistency, reasonable costs, appropriate risk, and time than from constantly trying to discover the next spectacular trade. Number 8. They spend money protecting what they already have.
Building wealth gets attention. Protecting wealth gets much less. Someone with significant assets may care deeply about things that aren't impressive on Instagram. Appropriate insurance, updated beneficiaries, emergency reserves, estate documents, tax planning, cybersecurity, and diversification. Those expenses can feel boring because the best outcome is often that nothing dramatic happens. Think about someone who has spent 20 years building a successful financial life. Taking unnecessary risks simply because they can afford them makes little sense. This doesn't mean wealthy people eliminate every risk. That's impossible. Instead, they become more deliberate about which risks they accept, which risks they insure against, and which risks simply aren't worth taking. Sometimes the clearest sign of financial maturity isn't how aggressively someone tries to make money, it's how carefully they avoid losing what they've already built. Number 9. They have more control over their time. Money becomes especially powerful when it creates choices. A person with strong finances may be able to leave a terrible job without immediately wondering how next month's rent will be paid. They might take several months between careers, help care for a parent, turn down a bad business deal, or wait for a better opportunity. That doesn't mean every wealthy person stops working. Many people with plenty of money continue working because they enjoy the challenge, purpose, relationships, or additional income. The difference is often optionality. The CFPB includes financial freedom of choice as an important part of financial well-being. A luxury watch can show that someone bought a luxury watch. Having the financial ability to say no when something isn't right can reveal something much more valuable.
Number 10. They don't need strangers to think they're rich. Perhaps the most interesting sign is psychological. Once someone has built genuine financial security, looking wealthy can become less important than being secure. That doesn't mean rich people never buy expensive things. Plenty do. Someone might genuinely love sports cars, beautiful houses, watches, travel, art, or fine restaurants. Enjoying expensive things isn't evidence of financial irresponsibility. The difference is whether the purchase fits comfortably into their financial life, or whether their financial life is being sacrificed to support the purchase. A quietly wealthy person may have reached the point where other people's opinions have very little influence over the decision. They know what they own, they know what they owe, and they know what they can afford. They don't need the parking lot, the neighborhood, or the label on their shirt to confirm it. And that's the larger lesson. Wealth and the appearance of wealth are two completely different things. The person who looks broke may actually be financially secure, and the person who looks rich may be carrying enormous obligations. You can't know someone's finances from appearances alone. A much better goal is to build your own balance sheet until emergencies become manageable, debt becomes optional, assets grow quietly, and money gives you more choices. Which of these 10 signs do you think people misunderstand the most?